Hi, I'm Adam and welcome back to First Man Photography. And today is a big day for me. And I'll tell you that story as we also discuss, can you actually make a living from photography in 2023? Before we get going today though, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a domain name, a website, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. When I meet people and tell them I'm a full-time photographer and filmmaker, pretty much 100% of the time, they will ask me how I make money. Now, I don't really mind this because I guess it is a bit unusual, but my answer is nearly always the same in that I simply cast the net as wide as possible, see what sticks, and then do that. So I'll give you a very brief rundown of my past and present revenue streams, which ones worked, which ones didn't, and then later on we'll look at what I'd do if I was starting from scratch today. The first time I ever made any real money from taking pictures was doing wedding photography. Even, I think, in 2023, this is still a viable option. And my standard fee was about £2,000. It's very decent money, but in the end, I gave it up because although I loved the actual day, everything else around it was pretty thankless. Also, the truth is, from an artistic point of view, absolutely no one else cares about your work other than the people in the pictures. Commissions is next. I'm a landscape photographer, so this happens occasionally, and it's nice when it does, but these days it's happening less and less, and the price people are willing to pay has also dropped off a cliff. Corporate assignments comes next. Doing corporate work is nice when you can get it and by far earns the most money, but it's getting harder and harder to get these opportunities, especially in landscape photography. Marketing budgets have dried up. There is a huge supply of brilliant photographers around, and companies are also very aggressive on price. If I was just starting out today, I wouldn't even bother trying to break into this area, and the reason for that will become very clear later on. I've made money from stock photography. This is the woolly mammoth of the photography world because it used to be huge, but is now completely extinct. Don't waste your time on it. Workshops, tours, and tuition is next. I stopped doing workshops a couple of years ago now, not because I didn't enjoy them, but mainly because I felt very uncomfortable charging the amount of money required to make it worth my time. The last few years have also proven that this is a very fragile revenue stream. These services are very much a luxury, and as the economy continues to tank and people switch only to essential spending, the market for workshops is going to shrivel up to nothing. If you plan to become, or if your plan is to become a full-time photographer and it's based on running workshops, I would be extremely cautious. We'll talk a bit more about books, prints, and calendar sales in the next section, but by far, the revenue stream that has proven most resilient for me over the years is YouTube. We're often faced with people saying we're not proper photographers because we're on YouTube, but I just don't care anymore. I go out, I make landscape photographs, share the adventure with you, and then that generates revenue through advertising. It's far from a perfect system, but it works, and it's not going away anytime soon. If you're starting out today, video creation has to be on your radar. And apart from anything, connecting directly with your audience like this is just a beautiful thing. And also, I was bloody terrible when I first started talking to camera. Hi, I'm Adam Carnach, and welcome to First Man Photography. This is my new YouTube channel, where I'm going to be posting videos as often as possible, and it's linked to my website at firstmanphotography.com. But practice and not caring what people think will help you go far. Probably the most exciting time in my photography career was when I got this studio. My imagination ran wild, the creative opportunities felt endless, and after months of enforced homeschooling of my kids, it pretty much saved my business by having the space again to make videos. But in less than 3 weeks, I am leaving. I had loads of plans for this space, doing studio photography, restarting a podcast, running print workshops. I wanted it to be a fun social space, but none of that, for various reasons, has really happened. To be honest, for the last 12 months, it's just felt more just like an office rather than a studio. Then it kind of started sucking my creativity dry. On top of that, I've been getting fit again recently, and the adventures, landscape photography, hiking, and camping are my direction moving forward. And the studio is now just an expense I don't need. I have no regrets though. I cast the net wide, did something I always wanted to do, and for the moment it hasn't stuck, so I'm moving on. And the revenue that goes into this place can now be put directly into making this content even better. I've still got 2 or 3 videos left to film in here, but I'm already well on the way to moving out. And despite this sort of main shot, the place is in absolute chaos. I've got loads of work still to do. Now, if you are considering starting any business, even just making a bit of money on the side, I guess, thinking about the actual value you provide to people is extremely important. Now, in the past, the value that a professional photographer provided to the client was very obvious. It was the photograph itself. This would often cost the client thousands of pounds, take up a significant amount of time, and there's also then no guarantee they would even be happy with the end product that you provided. What AI is going to do, and we're already well on the way to this, is reduce the price of obtaining amazing images down to zero. They will be made instantly and for free just by typing a few words into a website. This is Midjourney and already does a shockingly good job at creating any image you can imagine. In just a few years' time, all of these images will be completely photorealistic, and advertising and marketing people won't need to spend a penny on hiring a photographer. I've made a few videos about AI now, but the fact is, it's here, and no amount of complaining is going to put that genie back in the bottle. It's equal parts terrifying and exciting, but as creative people, especially if we want to make a living at it, we really need to consider how we're actually going to create value for people. I'm going to share some strategies on how to make it in 2023 in a minute, but as you know, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Now, if you are a photographer, running your own website is the best possible way to share your story with the world, and there's never been a better time for it. And with Squarespace, it's just so easy to set up. And unlike social media, you control how your images are presented. You start by using one of their beautiful templates. Put some of your images and a little bit of your text on there, and then before you know it, you will have a unique and beautiful looking website. You don't need any coding knowledge either. It's easy and it will dynamically adjust to look perfect on all types of screen, including a phone, which is a particular importance today. You can start with a simple gallery, but as you grow, you can then upgrade your site to an online store where you can easily start selling things like prints, books, or anything else that takes your fancy. It also now has a member section where it allows you to run a subscription service and get people to come back regularly. And then in the unlikely event that you run into trouble, they have award-winning customer service. I've used Squarespace for years now, and I have never looked back. So go to squarespace.com to start your free trial today. And if you like what you have created, use the offer code FIRSTMAN to get 10% off your first purchase. Right, here's the strategy, and it's very simple. 1, provide value to people. 2, do this by telling good stories. And 3, work really hard. If you want it, it's out there. I read a good quote the other day that said, if you can teach somebody to do your job, then at some point AI is going to do that job. So let's assume you've made the leap to being a full-time photographer or artist. Could you ever teach someone to create like you do, tell stories like you do, entertain like you do, or have opinions like you do? Of course not. You are your biggest asset. If you double down on that, AI can never replace you. I'm pretty convinced as well there are creative people out there who are going to use all this new technology to make things that are completely authentic and brilliant, things we can't even imagine yet. If you're like me though, and you make landscape photographs of the actual scene in front of you, then telling a good story around the image is going to become increasingly important in providing that sense of value in your work. This doesn't have to be video either. I think there's still room for more photography podcasts. I read quite a few blogs as well where the photographer shares thoughts that go beyond just how the photo was captured and instead discuss the why and the human element involved. Another essential tactic for full-time artists these days is to understand the various content models available for monetizing digital content. There are basically three. The first is the ad-driven revenue model, which YouTube is part of. Secondly, we have subscription-based models like Netflix. And thirdly is value for value, which is where the content is provided up front and then people are encouraged to give value back in return in the form of donations. My Raw Room platform is an example of this, where you can watch these same videos without the ads and sponsorships. I've made a full video about this before, but they all have their positives and negatives. And if you make digital content, it's worth looking at and deciding which one or combination will work best for you. Now, my favourite thing with artists is when they bring their work from the digital space back into the physical world and then sell it. For musicians, this is in the form of playing a gig for people. But for photographers, it means printing their work. If you're sat there though, thinking, what's Adam on about? How can you tell a story with a single image? Well, what about doing a book then? I got this one recently from Richard Fox. It's utterly fantastic. And as well as looking at the amazing photographs, his writing also taught me about all the different kinds of mist. Richard isn't a full-time photographer either, and he's still getting after it. Now, one thing is for certain, if you want to make it as a full-time photographer in 2023, it is not going to be easy. I find it really fucking hard, but by putting in the graft and telling a good story to people, it provides them with a tremendous amount of value. And for me at least, that delivers a deep sense of meaning and fulfillment. Right, I've got packing to do, a lot of packing to do. I'll see you later.